Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're excited to welcome you. My name is Mary Lynn Macmillan. I'm an outreach and education advisor with the student recruitment team at Mohawk College, and I'm joined by the wonderful faculty of our journalism and public relations programs. Before we get started, this is just a reminder as participants to please keep your videos and microphones turned off. We kindly ask you to use the chat feature to ask any questions, and we will get to answering them at the end of our presentation. We are recording today's session for future use and for it to be used and viewed on our program pages. We know everyone is curious about how September will look for program delivery, and we have the faculty here to help answer any questions about the delivery method for their programs this fall. If entering a program that will be virtual for this fall semester, please know that the plan is flexible and can be easily scaled up or down to accommodate any changes along the way. You can be confident that our new learning styles will meet the learning outcomes for your program while ensuring the quality educational experience you expect from Mohawk. I'd encourage everyone to check updates about COVID-19 on the Mohawk College website. A link for frequently asked questions will be available in the chat for your review. If any international students are joining us today, please be sure to connect with our International Student Department. The website for international student support and information will also be available in the chat. Just a reminder that there is still space in these programs for anyone looking to start this September. Details on admission requirements can be found on each of the program pages. Now I will hand it over to Allison to provide you with more information about our programs.
Hello, everyone. So thank you so much for joining us. We have a little presentation, so don't be alarmed if your screen suddenly disappears and you see a big black screen that says Journalism 297. So that is our program, and I am Allison Dunn, and I am one of the professors in the program. So I can speak to a lot of what our program is and what it does. So next slide, please. So sometimes we pull things right back to the beginning in journalism, and we try and talk about what is journalism? What is this crazy thing that we talk about when we talk about journalism? And we like to sometimes say that journalism isn't a job, it's a skill set. It's a thing that we do. It is something that we practice. So we actually practice journalism. We become journalists through working with these skills as a journalist. And we talk a lot about them. And I know that all these hands, one day I want to get a picture that doesn't have just a lot of hands and microphones that just say news, because there's a lot more to it than just news. One of the things that we try and do in journalism is we learn how to tell stories, and we learn how to tell other people's stories. We do this for so many different reasons. We do it because we want to talk about information and truth and trust and expression, freedom of expression. So we really purposely go out of our way to be able to tell these stories in a factual and as unbiased as possible way. One of the goals that a lot of people have coming into journalism is this idea of change and inclusion. And now more than ever, we've seen how important good journalism is. When we see all kinds of fake news and misinformation being spread, we realize how important it is for us to tell these stories truthfully and to tell the full story, because that's how we change our world. Next slide, please. So why would you, if you have these ideals, why would you come to Mohawk for journalism? And so I do want to talk a little bit about why you might come to Mohawk. So we are the only journalism program in Ontario that we cover all areas of production. So you are not just going to learn how to be a writer, or you're not just going to learn how to be a broadcaster. You are going to learn the full set of skills, from video to audio to the written word, newspapers, magazines, websites, multimedia. You're going to learn all of that. We are also the only journalism program in Canada to currently offer a course in accessible media production. So it's not enough to be able to produce all of these things. We have to be able to produce them in a way that everyone can enjoy them, regardless of differing abilities or challenges that someone might have. We want you to be able to create content that every single person will be able to experience. It's something that we're really proud of. There are a lot of laws and regulations coming into effect very soon that actually are going to require companies, including media companies, to make all of their content accessible. So by having that skill set, we are the only program that's going to equip you to be able to walk into any employer's office or to work for yourself saying, hey, not only do I know how to create this content, I know how to create it and make it accessible. So we are constantly updating our program. We want to add new technologies. We want to face the realities of the changing situation. I know most people have seen all of the news anchors lately are working from home, and they're recording the 6 o'clock news sitting in their living rooms or their dining rooms or their home offices. And that's the type of changes that we adapt to. The industry is changing, and so are we. Next slide, please. So what could you do after graduation? Well, this is just actually a very small list of the type of work that our graduates go on to do. So if you think that you are going to come into journalism and then you have to go get a job at the Hamilton Spectator and work there for 25 years, I have to tell you, you are completely mistaken. Now, if that's your goal, that doesn't mean you won't achieve that. So reporter and reporter photographer, writer, these are definitely jobs that our graduates do. We have 2 graduates from the past year that both actually went to go work in traditional newspaper newsrooms. One is in Guelph and one is in Peterborough. You can also be an editor. And this doesn't necessarily mean an editor for a newspaper or a magazine. You could go on to be a book editor. Content creator, so you could make your own, if you have dreams of making your own YouTube content. If you want to go work corporately for someone making content, developing content. Multimedia journalism, you'll see a lot of jobs posted for that. And things like content managers and content specialists and proposal writers and communications and corporate communications. Social media is a huge area where our graduates are moving to. A lot of our graduates, we have 2 from the past year that went on to become social media coordinators for companies. So where they basically run the company's entire social media strategy. Media relations, a web editor, a control room director, a web producer. There's so many opportunities out there after graduation. It's just one of those really important things that we do. All right, next slide. So what do we do? So just to give you an idea of some of the things that we do in our program, and I've kind of posted some of it, you can see some of the pictures here, but you will work on websites and, oh, can we go back a slide? Sorry, nope. There it is. All right. So we do websites and online content. So if you see the website screenshot with a person with a mask on her face, that is the website, ignitenews.ca. We produce that. It is completely student run and student produced. I oversee it. I'm the writing prof, so I oversee that. We also do an online newspaper, which you can see below that, the picture of the llama. That is a sample of our newspaper, and again, produced by students. We have a television show, Ignite News, Mohawk College. That is something that is also produced by students. You can see there's a picture of something that says Hired Not Fired. That's actually a multimedia project that our journalism students have worked on. That particular multimedia project was nominated for an Emerge Media Award. We also make documentaries. The picture below, that is a 3rd-year documentary. So if you ever have an interest in documentary making, you will get to do that. And we do have a lot of equipment for you to use. We do have video cameras and DSLR cameras that are available in our equipment room for journalism students to take out and use. We do, if anyone can see me, we do an awful lot with these things. So we teach you an awful lot of the skills that you need to know just by using your phone, because there's an old saying that what is the best camera? The best camera is the camera you have. We also use Adobe Creative Suite, which is being supplied to students. Normally we have a journalism lab that one day you will get to see. It is a lab dedicated to just the journalism program with about 30 or so giant Mac computers with the Adobe Creative Suite on them. But while we're going to be online this fall, the school is going to be supplying students with the full Adobe Creative Suite that you'll need to use. We also use a program called Ross Newsroom. So that's something that you can then take out into the real world, and a bunch of online tools. We use a bunch of different things like Timeline and ThingLink, and we use Dexter, which makes chatbots. So we use a bunch of different online programs. So next slide, please. So what can you expect to take? And this is just a sample of the types of courses that you will end up taking in journalism. There's digital audio video editing. So if you ever wanted to learn how to create your own videos, we teach you how to do that. Social journalism, which is definitely a lot of social media. That's where you're going to learn the skills that you might be able to use to become something like a social media coordinator. We teach photojournalism. So if you're interested in taking pictures, great way to parlay that skill into a career. Broadcast news writing and production, print news writing and production. We call it print. It's really print and web at this point. You will get to try your hand at investigative reporting. We have a media entrepreneurship course too that helps you if you want to build your own business, and let's say you decide you don't want to work for someone else, but you want to be an independent content creator, then we have a course to help you out with that. And of course, the documentary course, which is one of the flagship courses in third year that is everyone seems to look forward to documentary. So next slide, please. So if you have questions, and I put in this picture because it is a group, it's actually last year's graduating class. They covered one of the open houses at Mohawk as a live event. And so they live streamed it on Facebook. And that was the team before they were running out to go do all of their fun stuff. But if you want to learn more, go on our website and just search for journalism. Or you can email, there's two different people you can email. You can email our program coordinator, David Smiley. It is davidsmiley@mohawkcollege.ca. Or feel free to drop me a line. What Dave doesn't know, I do, and what I don't know, he does. We pretty much know the same things. But you can contact me at allison.dunn@mohawkcollege.ca. And that is our presentation for journalism. So I will hand it over to Tim Tuck, who will be able to talk about the public relations program here, which we consider to be a perfect partnership between these two programs. So I'm going to let him explain a little bit about it.
Thank you, Allison, and hello, everyone. As Allison said, I'm the program coordinator for the Public Relations Graduate Certificate Program. So I'll talk a little bit about what a graduate certificate program is as well. By way of background, I'm celebrating actually, as of last Thursday, my 13th year with Mohawk College, particularly with this program for the past 13 years. I've also enjoyed a 33-year career as a professional communicator, so that includes my time here at the college. And I think that's one of the great things that you get with any of the programs here. You're going to be working with individuals who are working in industry, experienced in industry, and are able to provide you with that firsthand knowledge that you'll be looking for, that'll give you the skills that you'll need in order to be successful in the program. So I'm going to focus on the Public Relations Graduate Certificate Program, talk a little bit about that and what benefits you can get and the opportunities that you can achieve if successfully completing this program. So I'll start with the first slide, which really again looks at the prerequisites that you'll require coming into the program, and again giving you a little bit of a background in terms of what a graduate certificate program is. And so essentially it's a program that's available to any individual who has a college diploma, a university degree, a prior post-secondary credential. So for us, we are looking for individuals who have those requirements, somebody who has graduated ideally in a communications-oriented program, whether that be in college or from a university focus. It could also be marketing, advertising. As Allison said, there's a nice connection with journalism. And when you look at this college diploma, the minimum 2 years in a related area of study, journalism is one of those areas that's considered a related area of study. Other programs that might fall into that category, and there are many, could be advertising, as an example. If anybody is here as a graduate of the advertising program here at Mohawk College or other schools, that is a prerequisite, or could be considered a prerequisite to our program. So that is essentially what a postgraduate program is. The Mohawk College Public Relations Graduate Certificate Program is a 1-year, 2-semester program. We start in September. We have 1 intake, and we run through until April of 2021. And at the end of that 2-semester program, you would graduate with a certificate in public relations. And again, the skills necessary to land that entry-level job in the public relations industry. So now I'll talk a little bit about what we train in the public relations program. So on the next slide, you'll see a variety of different elements that represent our program, that represent the industry. So we train in social media and digital communications. And obviously this is key today with regards to how audiences are connecting with the organizations that you will represent when you're working in public relations. Again, referring back to Allison's presentation, she talked about journalists being storytellers. The same thing holds true with individuals in the public relations programs. Public relations professionals are storytellers. You are storytellers for the organizations that you're representing, and you're telling those stories over a variety of different platforms. Sounds familiar, very similar to the journalism program. But rather than writing for an organization that represents the media industry, the journalistic media industry, you're writing for the organizations that interact with their audiences directly through various platforms, including journalists who are working professionally in the industry. Social media, digital communications, again, is key. And when we talk about digital communications, we're looking at things, elements such as video production, website, blog production, social media production falls into that category as well. But that all falls into this social media and digital communications course. One of the #1 skills that employers are looking for graduates coming out of any public relations program would be your ability to write well. And so when we think about public relations writing, this is one of those courses that we actually have carrying over in both semesters of the program because of the need for graduates to communicate well through the written word over a variety of different platforms. This will be key from an employer perspective. Actually, you'll graduate with a professional portfolio that you'll be able to showcase during the interview process that demonstrates your ability to write well. And again, we'll emphasize this not only in the public relations writing courses, but in the other courses that are taught throughout the program. Media relations is an area that continues to remain strong in the public relations industry. In fact, over 80% of public relations professionals still are engaged in some form of media relations activity. What exactly is media relations? It is in the name. It's the ability of the professional or of an organization to work with the journalistic media, to work with media in a way that is mutually beneficial for both the reporter that the public relations practitioner would be working with and the organization that the public relations representative represents. And this is the relationship aspect. So we'll teach about building those relationships and in growing those relationships so that as professionals, you can get your messages out, again, representing the organizations that you work for. We'll look at other elements such as issues and crisis management. This year, as an example, our students lived firsthand the crisis management aspect of it, having to deal with and working in many cases in field placements with organizations that were in the early stages of communicating during the pandemic, as an example. So we look at the difference between issues and crises, and we talk about the evolution of issues into crises and how, from a communications perspective, it's important to reach out to those audiences, ensure people have the messaging that they need in order to better equip themselves to manage through a crisis situation. And we see that every day today in how we're managing the pandemic. You know, the talk of social distancing, that's public relations communication, getting those messages out, educating our audiences, wearing masks when we're in public places, how to properly wash our hands. This is all part of the public relations messaging that is educating our audiences ongoing now during this particular crisis. So that's just one example of many that we would look at in this particular course area. Communications doesn't just happen, or public relations doesn't just happen. It's all about the planning aspect to it as well. So we'll look at the communications planning process or the public relations planning process and walk you through that throughout both semesters. Many people like the idea of event planning. In public relations, a lot of what we do may focus around the idea of small special event public relations activities. So we'll take a look at that aspect as well while you're in the program. There is a design aspect that's a part of the public relations industry. You're not going to be taking a 3-year graphic design program, but you'll be introduced to the fundamentals in graphic design and learn how to design materials that, again, will be helpful in communicating those organizational messages. There's an element of fundraising that we talk about as well within the program, and again, helping foundations achieve their goals when it comes to, raising funds for organizations and again, communicating with the right audiences in order to increase those donations, raise those funds for those organizations. I want to talk now, we'll move on to the next slide and look at some of the other elements that you'll experience while in the Public Relations Graduate Certificate Program here at Mohawk. And the first thing I want to focus on is the hands-on piece and the experiential, we call it, experiential learning that you'll get while you're in the program. We have an in-house experiential learning space we refer to as the agency. And the agency is not unlike a public relations firm or an agency that you may graduate and work in when you leave the program. So an agency essentially provides all of these services that I was just speaking about on the previous slide in one in-house environment on behalf of many organizations. And so we do the same thing within our agency at Mohawk College. We reach out, we have partnerships with community partners. For our program, a lot of those community partners are not-for-profit organizations that don't have the funds available to hire professional agencies, so they reach out to our agency here at Mohawk and work with our students on real-world problems that impact their organizations. Our students are researching, developing strategies, plans for these organizations to help them, again, communicate better with their audiences through a variety of different channels. So we will continue that this year, our partnerships through the agency and our community partners, working with our students, providing you with that hands-on experience that you will really help you in your learning as you move forward. And the other aspect is the 140-hour field placement requirement. Here you have an opportunity to work with industry professionals firsthand and gain valuable experience that is going to serve you well when you graduate from the program. So the 140-hour requirement can be met at any point throughout the program, which is very unique to the Mohawk program. You can start as early as September working in a placement, whether that be a virtual online placement, which is very reflective of the industry today, or in office, depending on certain requirements being met that are currently being examined both through the college, the Ministry of Health, and our employers, looking at how we can create safe environments should we move into in-person, face-to-face placement opportunities. So this 140 hours can be met, as I said, first semester, second semester. You can complete the hours outside of the regular classroom hours. And we have had students in the past who have met their 140 hours in November. We've had students who have decided to wait until the second semester and started collecting their hours in January, and by April have completed their hours. The benefit here is we do not require you to add an additional 4 weeks at the end in April through May. You're able to do that concurrently while you're completing your studies. And that gives you a great advantage, being able to graduate in April, complete your program in April, having completed also your field placement requirement for the program. So those are two key elements. The other thing I want to touch on here when we talk about experience is the professional networking that I think is really important for anybody that's within the program. You have to start somewhere in terms of your career, and we try to connect you with as many industry professionals as we can during that period that you spend with us in the public relations program through a variety of different ways. So we'll look at bringing guest speakers in, having you meet with those guest speakers again in our fall delivery. That'll be virtually. We have partners who are more than happy to talk about those opportunities that are available to you. We'll introduce you to the industry associations that represent the professionals, the International Association of Business Communicators, or IABC, and the Canadian Public Relations Society. And our partnerships with those organizations provide you with many, again, networking opportunities that are going to prove invaluable when you start your career search. And we have assignments built into the program where you interview individuals working within the industry through what we refer to as informational interviews, and learn more about the work that they do as professional public relations practitioners or corporate communicators, and interact with those individuals face-to-face or again virtually, getting those connections that are going to be invaluable to you. So professional networking is key as we take you through the program in terms of building your network and helping you move forward in your career. So I'll move on to take a look at now what you can do with your public relations graduate certificate after graduating. So this slide just looks at just a few of the many opportunities that are available for you. In public relations, the really nice thing is if you have an area of interest, you can look at opportunities to work in that particular field. Now, you may have to work in an area as you start to early in your career build your experience that maybe you never thought you would work in, and work towards that area that is maybe of more interest to you. But the opportunities to work as a social media specialist for an organization or within an agency, a blogger, social media coordinator, public relations specialist, public relations coordinator, public affairs specialist. The list, as you can see, is very extensive and goes on. I once had a student who came to me prior to the program, and they had worked in as a professional and as a tradesman. They had worked in the HVAC industry, which is that industry that is responsible for air conditioning systems that run through large buildings, as an example. They had a workplace injury. They could no longer go back to that work, and they came into the Public Relations Graduate Certificate Program and asked what could they do when they graduated with the certificate. And I asked the student, well, what would you like to do? And they said, well, I would like to get back into the HVAC industry. And when they graduated, they worked as a public relations practitioner for a manufacturer of HVAC systems, as an example. So they were able to get back in the industry that they knew and they had background in, but doing it from a different perspective. And that's the nice thing about this. You can work in entertainment, you can work in government, you can work in a variety of different backgrounds, education, medicine, healthcare. The list, again, is really endless in terms of those opportunities that are available to you. And before I move on to questions, I just want to just look at one other slide, and this is our Direct to Masters program that we have in partnership with Queen Margaret University in Edinburgh, Scotland. There is an opportunity after graduating with your graduate certificate here at Mohawk College to consider a master's in strategic communication and public relations through Queen Margaret University. You will receive credit for the courses that you've studied here at Mohawk towards your master's degree with Queen Margaret University. And that credit is awarded to you whether you've come into our program with a diploma or a degree. So it doesn't matter from a Queen Margaret University perspective what your post-secondary education was prior to your public relations graduate certificate. You would be eligible to apply for this master's program with QMU. And we can talk about that in more detail as you go through the program, and we bring in speakers from Queen Margaret University to talk a little bit more about that in detail as well. But you could be eligible to enroll as early as September 2021 if you were in this year's program in Mohawk College, which begins in September. So that's a quick overview of our program. I'll move on to the question slide as well, and just again, give you some contact information. My email address is there, tim.tuck@mohawkcollege.ca. Certainly you can also take a look at our website and search for public relations on the Mohawk College homepage, and that'll take you to our program page where more detail is available for you. In May, I hosted a 1-hour session for interested applicants. There is a link to that session which has been posted on YouTube. So if you're looking for more detail than what we provided with you today, we have other faculty there that talk a little bit about the courses that they teach. The program information is provided there in more detail as well. So certainly look for that. And again, if you have any other questions, please feel free to email me and I'd be happy to answer those questions for you. And that's my presentation.
Great, thank you so much, Allison and Tim. We actually have some questions that we're hoping you might be able to answer for everyone today that's joining us in the presentation. The first one is, I believe both of you mentioned it, but we do want to just make sure that we have the answer is, will the fall semester be online for both of these programs?
I can start with journalism. So yes, the fall semester will be completely online. We have been working very hard to make sure, I guess I could start my video too, just so people can see me. We have been working very hard to make sure that we are finding new and innovative ways to deliver the content. We actually have a semester running right now. So we've been working through some of the technical issues, and I think we're in a really, really strong position to be able to move to an online delivery in the fall. Of course, if for some reason things can scale and we are allowed back in the school, we will certainly be able to switch to that. But we're really looking forward to it. We think it's going to be pretty interesting considering that our industry has basically moved online in this time. And as I mentioned, you see news anchors delivering the news from their homes. So if we can do it, or if they can do it, we can do it. And so we are going to be fully online this fall.
And likewise, the PR program is also going to be fully online. And, you know, to Allison's point, this is an industry that has very much moved online during this period, and we were very well positioned to do this back in the spring when we had to move into online for the last 7 weeks of our delivery, and it went quite smoothly, and we're looking forward to doing this again in the fall. Again, using applications that are being used in industry. I'm going to just again provide you with a quick example. I was teaching Zoom to the students in the public relations program last October as a tool that's being used to connect industry. And, you know, I felt it was important that they understand the new and emerging technologies that are available to communicate in a global environment that we work within. And lo and behold, we were using it as a primary delivery model in the second semester. And I don't see this working any differently in terms of our delivery in the fall. We're going to be using tools to deliver our academics to you that are being used in industry to essentially work day to day. So you're going to be given those hands-on, that hands-on training, that will be used in industry when you graduate from the program. And again, we're quite well equipped to do that for you, and looking forward to the online delivery for the fall.
Great. We have a question from one of our participants, Yobi. Yobi, I'm going to unmute you now so that you can ask Tim and Allison your question. Oh, okay. So I see that he's typed it here. So the question is, does journalism and public relations require creativity and storytelling?
I know that I know how Tim is going to answer this as well, but yes, absolutely. So creativity might be a little different than what you think necessarily. So we're not creative in the way that we make things up. Obviously, that is probably the biggest rule in journalism, is that you don't make things up. So it's not creative in that way, but it is creative in how it lets us tell the stories of different people and situations. So it does require you to learn how to tell stories well, no matter which medium you choose to tell the story. So we learn how to tell stories through the written word. We learn how to tell stories in a very visual way through video and through creative video editing. We learn how to tell stories through pictures, because we have a photojournalism aspect to that. So we learn how to go and take pictures and use those to tell stories. And we learn how to meld them all together. So one of the things that we work on a lot when we work on the school newspaper, for example, is it's not just about writing the story for the newspaper. You have to go out and take the pictures that go with it. You have to be able to lay it out on the page. That requires a significant amount of creativity. You have to be able to write headlines and decks. These are all things that you'll learn how to do for the newspaper to catch the reader's attention. You'll learn how to do data visualizations, so how to find stories in data and then turn that into something that is visual and easy for your reader to understand. You'll learn how to write so that when you're on camera, your words come across very clearly. You'll learn how to take the great shots. So really, it does require a lot of storytelling, and it requires a lot of creativity.
And likewise, public relations is exactly the same for a lot of the same reasons, and that Allison mentioned, and the skills that that you learn. Creativity is in the way that we write. Creativity is in the way that we design our materials that you'll learn to produce in the program, the video production that you'll do. There are a number of ways that you can be creative in the way that you tell stories, and storytelling is a major component of any practitioner, public relation practitioner's job. And the term storytelling is a term that is heavily used today to describe the work that we do in public relations, regardless of the platform. And Allison, held up her phone in her presentation and talked about the ability to communicate through through these devices. And we even talk about how to tell stories through the use of the mobile technology, telling stories through your blog posts, through the website contributions that you create, through feature writing. There are so many opportunities to tell stories and be creative in the way that you do that, both through the written word and the visual components. So very much a part of the industry itself.
All right, the next question is a couple of them together. First of all, how hard is it to get a job in public relations and journalism? I heard that based on communicating with other journalists that print journalism was declining. A journalist had told me that journalism is changing. And then the follow-up question to this is talking about creativity and storytelling skills. What happens if someone doesn't possess that, and is it going to be taught within the program?
All right, so to tackle the job issue. So the answer is actually no, it is not that difficult to find a job. Yes, print revenues are declining a lot. You'll see a lot of newspapers are closing, although ironically, 2 of our graduates from last year both went to get jobs at newspapers. One is writing for the Peterborough Examiner and one is writing for Guelph Today. Another one is actually also working in Guelph for University of Guelph, running their student publication. We have another student who's gone out to BC and is working for a business-to-business magazine publisher doing their social media. We have a lot of students that go on to do, corporate work. So real estate agents, for example, we've had a student who ended up working for a real estate agent, producing their brochures, making videos of walkthroughs of their houses, taking pictures of the houses, and writing all of the descriptions of the house. So it's not that it is difficult to find a job, but you have to change your thinking about what a job means or what it is. So if you think you're going to go work at the CBC for 35 years and retire with your gold watch, that's probably not a realistic look at the way the industry is right now. It is a lot, there's a lot of freelance work. There's a lot of running your own business. I myself did that as a journalist for about 17 years. And I did contract work. I worked for a number of publications in the United States and here in Canada, doing all kinds of different topics like emergency management and manufacturing. So it can be anything you want it to be. And we find that our graduates who are successful are the ones who are able to take the skills that they learn and turn that into a profession. So I'll let Tim talk about public relations in terms of job opportunities before I tackle the second part of that question.
Yes, and public relations is, I think it's a really interesting one when it comes to job opportunities because, as I said, you can virtually work in any industry you choose. Now that I've always said, as long as I've taught in the program, if you're looking to work solely in Hamilton, then your opportunities are going to be very restrictive. But if you're the type of individual that's looking for opportunities and is willing to move, then certainly those opportunities are going to be available for you. Service Canada has completed a study, and this is the most recent in terms of employment growth and industry sectors, and the job outlook for public relations right now is quite good according to Service Canada, and employment in public relations and communications has risen significantly over the last couple of years, and it continues to rise. It's projected that there will be a 1.5% increase in annual growth, which is almost double the average growth rate of all other occupations. So from a public relations perspective, it's an industry that has been growing for a long time and continues to grow. When you look at unemployment, it's the unemployment rate for individuals working in public relations is significantly lower than the national average of unemployment, and so that's a positive sign as well. You can work independently as a freelancer in public relations. You can you can work, as I said, if you want, if opportunities are available to you in education, healthcare, government, in agency environments. There's so many opportunities that are available that if you're the type of individual that's willing to look for those opportunities, certainly they're available to you. I always suggest as well something to keep in mind, and Allison, you'd probably say the same. I mean, we have a lot of network connections. Building your professional network is certainly very important. And if it's not me helping you to find a job, your network, somebody within your network knows someone that's probably looking. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the students, the graduates' responsibility to get a job. But through all of us, through our industry connections, we're always getting opportunities that are crossing our desks, and we share those opportunities with our graduates. I am at a point now that having taught in the program for 13 years, this past year, I had at least 2 situations where I had grads hiring grads. And, when you start to build that network and you're able to reach out to grads who are hiring managers and look for those opportunities, that's a nice thing to have happen. And so, I think that, if you're in the program, we'll do our best to help connect you with those individuals. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you must remember it's you who's going to get you the job.
And so to kind of speak to some of the other questions that were in there, does journalism include tight deadlines? Yes, absolutely. It is probably the 2 most important things are we don't make anything up. Everything is factual, everything is fact-based. And the second is deadlines are the most important thing in in this industry. So yes, you can't have the 6 o'clock news go on at 7:30 at night. The 6 o'clock news has to go on at 6 o'clock. So definitely deadline oriented. And yes, ethical and honest, that is, you know, a core tenet of journalism and our beliefs. So yes, that is absolutely critically important. If you don't have the creativity and storytelling skills, well, that's what the whole point of this course is that we teach you over the years on how to tell those stories. That's what we're here for. That's our primary goal. So I would never say, you know, I've had students say things like, well, I don't know how to use InDesign for layout. And of course you don't know how to use InDesign. That's what we teach. So it's the same thing. We teach you how to tell stories. I always call it the bike analogy. Because we start small, we start with smaller stories, we start with Mohawk focused stories, we start with news writing. Even if you have no desire to be a news writer, you still have to learn the basics of news writing. And I liken it to when you're a little kid and you learn how to ride a tricycle first, because it's got 3 wheels, it's got a wide base of support, and you're just learning how to turn the pedals and how to make the bike go. And then you graduate to riding with a 2-wheeler, but with training wheels on it, so that it's a little less stable. You're starting to get the feel of how to balance on the bike, but you're not quite ready to go without the training wheels just yet. And then eventually you learn to ride the bike without the training wheels. You learn how to balance, you learn how to make the bike go forward, and you learn how to not fall off. And that's exactly how we structure our program to teach you. So we start with the very basics and we work our way up so that you don't need to know everything when you walk in the door. By the time you graduate, you'll have all those skills that you need. And yeah, there's another question about communication and writing skills. So yes, you need, you will develop excellent communication and writing skills.
Yeah, and I would agree too with the level of creativity and storytelling skills. Of course, at a postgraduate level, if you've come to us from a journalism program, you're going to have those skills at that level that have been taught through that program. We build on those skills, and you know, it's something that we'll continue to build on in phases. I loved the bike analogy. That was great, because I think, you know, it's the exact same process that we would follow as well. In terms of the higher communications and written skills, yes, I will tell every student coming into the program, you are in a communications program for a professional communications industry. And you should be able to communicate well, write well. As I said in my presentation, the #1 skill that employers are looking for out of graduates when they come from a program is your ability to write well, followed by then your ability to communicate well. So this is something that, again, through the program, we will work with you and help you with, but you know, you are moving into the communications industry, whether that be in journalism, whether it be in public relations. Think of a large umbrella, and within that umbrella, you know, there are many elements to it: journalism, public relations, corporate communications, which we also teach within the public relations program, marketing, advertising. All of these elements fall within that communications umbrella. So your ability to communicate well and your ability to write well will be essential in being successful in your career. And we want to help you with that, obviously, through both of our programs.
And writing involves more than just like the traditional print news writing. You will have to write, we write for broadcast as well. You will have to write for the newscasts. When you put together ENG packages, you have to write the script for that. So there is a lot of writing. We also have radio. So we do a lot of radio on-air news writing. And again, you have to write before you go on air. So I would say writing is a key skill that you will learn throughout the program, and you will learn to become a better writer. I'm a big believer in good writing, and the best part is the writing is very clear and simple. We don't use big fancy words. We write everything as simply as possible. We write the most important information first. That's what the lead is. And, you know, you really start to develop an excellent, simple, clear communication style.
Yeah, and the public relations, corporate communications industry is no different. You know, again, a lot of similarities between the two industries. And really you're trying to communicate in a way that your audiences are going to understand your messages, and you're not communicating to engineers, doctors, and you know, on a daily basis. You're communicating with people that you know, come from a variety of different backgrounds and a variety of different education levels, and so you have to write in a way that all of those audiences are going to understand. And the other thing about public relations too, when it comes to writing, is that there are a variety of different platforms that you write for. So there are still companies that are producing brochures and flyers to communicate messages. So we teach you how to write the copy for that type of platform. As I've mentioned already, you're writing for blog, which is very different than writing a 240 character tweet or a Facebook post, but they all take special skills in order to ensure that the most important information is getting out. And again, writing for mobile being important. But then I can also write for a digital online newspaper and write a feature story, which requires a totally different set of skills. So it's all of that is important, but the ability to write well, depending on the platform you're using, is what we will focus on.
Another question that came in, looking for clarification. So does this mean journalism works in organizations while public relations work in businesses to promote the company's image?
So journalism is independent of organizations, I think, maybe in the way you mean. So the goal of journalism is to tell the stories. Tell people what is happening. So right now, what we're seeing is how important journalism is, because there is so much misinformation going around about, let's say, the COVID situation and how can you catch it. So yes, sometimes newspapers, sometimes broadcast companies, and sometimes there's a lot of independent journalism. It's something we call citizen journalism. And that would be people who write their own blogs or have their own YouTube channels. There's a lot of niche industry and publications. There's I always joke that there's a publication for everything, every interest. And that is because the company I used to work for, one of the companies I used to work for, has a publication called Manure Manager, meaning they have a magazine all about poop. And it's actually geared toward farmers and people who would buy manure and use manure in their farming and production industries to grow things. And so there is an entire magazine devoted to it. So that's really, we work on it in terms of who is your audience, who are you trying to, who needs this information, whether they want it, whether they need it, whether it's important to them, whether it is in their personal life, whether it is information that's important to society or information that's important to a particular audience, like a group of farmers. Really, that's sort of the goal of journalism, is to get people the information that they need.
And likewise, I think it's the same with public relations. Image and reputation management is certainly key, but it's important to understand that it's about communicating information that your audiences, that the public needs to know about your organization, your programs, your products, or your services. If you communicate well, you communicate timely, you're open, you're honest, and you're transparent in public relations, that helps your image and your reputation as an organization. If you withhold information, if you're not quick sharing information, that has a negative impact on your image and your reputation. So certainly, as I say, image and reputation is important, but I come from a public health communications background as an example. So I'm right now following everything that's happening with COVID-19, the pandemic, and how information is being communicated. And for me, a large part of the work that I used to do was around education. And so again, referring back to my presentation today, communicating information to people about how to properly wash your hands, and communicating information about wearing a mask and social distancing and all of those things that we're being told to do is part of a public relations practitioner's job, somebody working in healthcare communications right now. So that's much more than image or reputation. That's protecting the health and well-being of people within the community. And so there's a really important role there being played by public health or health communicators, health professionals working in public relations. So If those individuals, if those organizations don't get out those messages in a timely fashion, so that, you know, we have so much in terms of messaging around us in the world right now. And as you know, Allison alluded to, you know, this idea of information that is not factual, if you can't stay on top of that, then certainly it's going to have a negative impact on your reputation. And so it is going to be important, you know, regardless of the industry you're working in. But I think the key is to remember that it's about just giving people the information that they need to know about your organization, your products, your services, you know, educating, whatever it may be. And that's probably, you know, the most important takeaway here for public relations.
Okay, last question before I pass it back to Terry Lynn to wrap things up. A question about software. Do they have to pay for any software as part of the program? And is there a preference for a Mac or PC computer?
So I'll start with that one if you don't mind, Allison. So in the Public Relations Graduate Certificate Program, it is a bring your own device program, and it always has been. So this is something that is required, and the preference is the industry standard, which is a PC platform, Windows based, over a Mac. That's not to say you can't be successful with a Mac, but everything that we teach is based on the Windows PC platform, which is our industry standard. We continually ask industry, what are you using in the office space? What are our graduates expected to know? And it's that platform. All of our details, our specs are on our website. So again, if you go back to the Mohawk College homepage and just in the search public relations and go onto our program page, you'll see the specs there for that. We ask you to have the Adobe Creative Suite cloud for the program, for the design courses and the digital communications course. There's no textbook that you purchase for the program, so you'll have an $18, $20 monthly license for the Adobe Creative Cloud. And then the only other element that we ask you to download is Microsoft Office 365, which is a free download, and that's it from our program perspective. There is a subscription that we will have you take out to the Canadian Press Style Book, which is also used in journalism, and that subscription is about $40. There's the hard copy of the book. We'll be doing using the online subscription format, but that subscription is about $40, and again, that information will be made available to you. So you're looking roughly $20 a month for the Adobe license and $40 for the annual subscription to the CP Style Book. And then all of the other requirements are listed on our website.
And so we are technically not a mobile program because we do have the journalism lab available to students where much of the classes take place and much of your work can take place, because for most classes you are given extra additional time to work in the lab. However, for next semester, obviously, since we are completely online, you will need some form of reliable computer and internet connection. It can be PC, it can be Mac. We are completely agnostic in that way. You will also need the Adobe Creative Suite. However, again, because of the COVID situation, the school has been providing that to journalism students. So it's not an additional cost to you. There will be a few textbooks, as Tim mentioned, the Canadian Press Style Book. That's probably the #1 textbook that you'll need to get. And some of your elective courses may also require you to purchase textbooks. But most of the journalism courses, other than that Canadian Press Style Book, don't really require you to buy any additional textbooks. So basically, you need a decent computer with an internet connection. We will take care of the rest. And as Tim mentioned, Microsoft Office 365 is available through the school.
So quickly too, if I could just clarify too with the Adobe Creative Suite, I'm basing that on what we've done annually, but yes, currently it's being offered at no charge, but I'm just asking people to keep in mind that if, we go back to the previous standard, you could be looking at a $20 license fee per month, roughly. So if the college is still covering that cost come September, then that'll be a fee that you won't have to worry about.
Great. Thank you all so much for your participation and for this great information that you've shared. We hope this leaves all of our participants confident to join us in September. And we'd like to thank everyone who joined us today. If you need assistance with next steps, have additional questions, or would like to speak to an advisor, you can connect with us by emailing discover@mohawkcollege.ca. Thank you again for joining us.